The Twilight Forest, a classic Minecraft mod loved by millions. I'm not really sure if this place is suitable for hardcore Minecraft, but today I'm going to try. Yes, that's right guys, I am going to be attempting to survive 100 days of hardcore Minecraft in the Twilight Forest. The goal here is, well, to survive, and to kill all of the bosses this mod has to offer, including fighting a giant version of myself. This is gonna get intense. Now before we start, I want to thank MC Pro Hosting for sponsoring this video. If you guys want to play Minecraft with a few friends, or start the next big Minecraft server, be sure to check them out. They have plans for every budget, and you don't even need to know anything about servers to use any of their services. Now, let's get into the Twilight Forest. This video starts out with me spawning into the Twilight Forest. The portal I came from was actually really cool. And once I spawned in, I looked around a bit and instantly saw this gigantic castle. I figured I should ignore it for now until I have some somewhat decent gear. I started knocking down this tree and got a firefly. This guy is so cute, I instantly fell in love. I quickly found some sugarcane and then crafted myself a pickaxe and grabbed myself some good old stone and even got some coal. Then I ran around the forest a bit more. I had never experienced this mod pack before, and saying I was excited was an understatement. I grabbed some iron in this cave and threw it in a furnace. While it was smelting, I also grabbed some food. Then I crafted myself a shield. I have no idea what sort of mobs I am going to come in contact with on my journey, so I wanted to be prepared. I continued exploring and found another cave. This one was a lot larger. I don't usually do a lot of mining on my first day in a new world, but for this mod, I figured it was pretty necessary. I grabbed myself a load of iron and coal and smelted it all up, getting myself a full set of iron armor. This should protect me quite a bit. I also made an iron pickaxe and got some other useful ores like lapis. After getting a full set of iron armor, I left the ravine and went out exploring. I found what looked like my favorite biome, a taiga, and I headed over to it. But I immediately regretted it. I walked straight into a blizzard and literally froze. I could barely move, and this strange blue creature was walking towards me. I panicked and killed him. He dropped a book that explained that the blizzard is due to a curse, and that I could probably find out more information on it in one of the towers I saw earlier. I kept this book for later and continued on my way to find a suitable place to set up camp. After running for a bit, I found this cottage in the blizzard. I ran up to it hoping for some more loot, but was poisoned by this skeleton. I panicked and ran out of there with about half health. I guess I should just stay out of the blizzard for now. In the meantime, I was pretty curious about this forest, so I kept exploring. I found myself this weird stone wall and wanted to see what was inside. I broke some blocks and peered inside and saw what I have to say is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in Minecraft. A giant Naga snake was roaming around and she saw me. As you can tell by my movement, I was pretty panicky and ran out of the Naga garden. I was still curious on what this was and climbed to the top of the wall to peer over. The Naga wasn't too happy I did this and showed me how powerful she really is. I decided to leave after this. I started to set up my base in this giant tree. This won't be my permanent home, but I think I'll set up here for at least a few days until I decide where I want to live. I carved out this tree and set all of my stuff down. Then I started decorating my wall with these fireflies. I love these guys and knew I needed more of them, so I ran around the forest getting enough to cover my entire wall. This is probably the best part of my base. I was ready to do some more exploring. I came across another one of these tower castle sort of things and found some more of these cottages outside of it. I felt brave and went inside. Sure enough, that skeleton was back and was shooting poison at me. I realized there was a spawner in here and quickly broke it to stop more skeletons from spawning. There was also a second floor that I had to deal with and I lost so much health. This could be the end if I'm not careful. After killing some skeletons, I found a chest and actually got some food. The other cottage also had some loot, and then I saw this crazy looking yellow orb barrier. I couldn't break any blocks in here. I was kind of bummed out. I really wanted to explore the castles. I was wondering what could cause this force field and was very confused. And then out of nowhere, another one of those little blue guys approached me and I got another book. This book let me know about another curse, and the only way to break it was to kill the Naga. I was super motivated. I ran right home to my base to get started on getting together some supplies to take on this scaly green beast. But before doing so, I needed a house. I was already outgrowing this tree base. I needed more space to put my items in and honestly wanted a nice little house. So I went out to get a ton of various types of wood for this house. I used some twilight oak wood and cobblestone, and for the roof, I even used some birch wood. This is a material I usually never build with, but I thought it could work for the roof, and I actually really like how this little cottage came out. This was a super nice, peaceful place, just what I needed to get me through the spooky Twilight Forest. But now that I had a nice home, it was time to get back to work on preparing to fight the Naga. I headed down underground to do some mining. I really wanted full diamond armor and maybe some enchants before fighting this thing. So yes, this mining trip was crucial. On my way back from mining, I found this giant hill and I went up to it. I looked inside and saw a mob I had never seen before. I was really curious on what this was, so I hopped inside and started fighting these strange green beetles. Look, I don't like bugs, and these guys were unsettling to say the least. I was fighting so many mobs at once and wasn't paying super close attention to my health. But yeah, I got down to 3.5 hearts. I ran away from the mobs, really hoping that they wouldn't hit me once more, because if they do, I might be dead. I blocked myself in and healed myself. Then I fought through the rest of the mobs and came across these adorable little troll guys. But they weren't too friendly. I also came across this fire beetle that really frightened me when it lit me on fire. Don't worry though, I was able to defend myself. I also got some cool loot from these chests, and one of the items I got was a Fortune 1 ironwood pickaxe. Not really sure what ironwood is, but we can figure that out later. I also got a magnet and some other random things. Don't worry, we'll go through them when we get back to the base. I fought some more mobs and then noticed there were so many ores on the ceiling of this place. I towered up to it and grabbed a load of diamonds with my fortune pickaxe. I was really taking a risk by doing so. If a skeleton hits me off up here, I will be falling down into a pit of mobs. Almost a guaranteed death, but it was really worth it to get all of these diamonds. After this, I headed home and put all of my newfound treasures away and crafted a full set of diamond armor. The Naga is not going to stand a chance against me. I wanted to enchant some items, so I went out to grab some obsidian from one of these cool tower things, and even took some time today to go out hunting and came back with loads of venison. This should last me a little while. Then I crafted an enchanting table and built an enchant setup in my tree and enchanted a few bows. I figured I'll combine these later on. I also enchanted my armor and my sword. I was ready to fight the Naga. Yes, my gear could be better, but I didn't want to wait any longer, so I headed off towards our base and towered up. Don't worry guys, I did some research before I went into this fight, and I read on some Twilight Forest wiki that I should probably stay far away from this mob and attack her with bow shots. So that is exactly what I started to do. I kept my distance and landed a ton of shots on her. I also read that if she gets too close to me, I can use my water bucket to push her away. So I made sure to have one in my hotbar. I'm really lucky I'm good with the bow. Out of nowhere though, the Naga started circling me and I was panicking. I really had to focus up here. If I lost too much health, it was game over. I don't have any way of healing myself, no golden apples or potions. I shot her with my bow and scared her off and was able to finish her. I had killed the terrifying Naga boss. This was for sure an accomplishment. I got a Naga trophy and 9 Naga scales. Now I'll be able to cross that force field. I expected the Naga to be a lot harder to fight, but this was actually super easy. I headed back to my base and hung the Naga head on my wall. After this fight, I felt super powerful, like nothing could stop me. So I headed out to explore. I went into this maze type thing, and for some reason this block kept damaging me. I broke some spawners in here, killed off some creepy looking mobs, and got some very mediocre loot. I kept running through the forest and found that scary tower that had the force field before. But since I had killed the Naga, I could enter. So I headed inside and climbed the tower. This tower was dark and scary and had creepy paintings everywhere. I came across a skeleton spawner, so I quickly broke it and killed them off so I could continue climbing the tower. Once I got up to the Twilight Lich, I realized I had no idea how to fight this thing, and as you can tell by what's going on, I was seriously struggling. I got too spooked out and left the tower completely. I headed home and organized some of my items, and did a bit of research on the Twilight Lich and how to fight it. In the meantime, I went to another one of these hollow hills. I think this one was larger, and the loot here was significantly better. I was able to get Naga scales, ironwood ingots, and some other super cool loot that I haven't seen yet. But with better loot meant harder mobs to fight, and I did find myself getting stuck with a bunch of mobs, and let me just tell you, being on fire doesn't help. One of the weirder things I got here was an uncrafting table. I cannot wait to play around with all of this later on. After getting all the loot I could find, I headed back to my base and went through all of my new stuff and looked up what each thing does. I'm still pretty new to modded Minecraft, so I had a lot to learn about the Twilight Forest mod. I literally spent an entire 2 days messing around with different items and learning about them, and at the end of the day, I crafted myself a super cool item I had been wanting, a magic map. This map shows me bosses that are nearby, and yes, this thing is going to come in handy when I want to fight certain bosses. I hung it on my wall for now because it is just so cool. I did some more research on the Twilight Lich and felt confident enough to go fight it. So I headed off to one of those towers that the Lich lives in and was instantly attacked by some baby zombies and a flying book. This is sort of terrifying, I must say. Just like the first tower I entered, I fought a load of mobs to make my way up to the boss itself, and once I got up there, I knew exactly what to do. So this boss has shields floating around her, and the only way to deal damage to her is to break all of the shields, which is done by deflecting the projectile she throws back to her. So I did this until all of the shields were broken. I blocked myself in to protect myself from her minions because I still don't have the most powerful armor set. Eventually, I hopped out of my safe wall I was hiding behind and finished the Twilight Lich off. I got a ton of XP, a Twilight Lich trophy head, some golden armor, and most of all, this super amazing staff that can actually spawn in my own shields if I need them. I headed home and hung the Lich trophy on my wall next to the Naga trophy. And then played around with some of the other loot I got. I realized I can craft Naga scale armor, and it's more powerful than the diamond armor I was using, so I crafted Naga leggings. I put away the rest of my loot and figured I needed to do something a little more relaxing. All of these scary adventures were taking a toll on me, so I spent today farming. It was really nice to set up this little wheat farm, and this should help make sure I don't run out of food anytime soon. Don't worry, eventually I'll expand it to have carrots, potatoes, and maybe even some animals. The next day I was playing around with this transformation dust, and I turned a chicken into a penguin. Guys, I cannot make this up. This was insane. I grabbed a lead and brought him into my house, and I decided to name him Benji. Make sure to welcome him to the channel in the comments section. Although I was having fun farming and finding penguins safely at my base, I knew I still had a lot of bosses to battle my way through. So I left with all of my gear to search for a Minoshroom dungeon. I actually wasn't sure what to look for, but after days of running through countless biomes, I found the entrance to a dungeon and hopped inside. I started making my way through the labyrinth, fighting some interesting mobs, and then out of nowhere, this terrifying thing popped up in front of me. Look, I honestly thought this was Herobrine for a second, but it was just a Minotaur. I had to fight a lot of these in here, but after learning how to deal with them, I figured out how to kill them without taking too much damage. There were tons of chests throughout the labyrinth, with some loot inside that I hadn't seen before. I was really excited to get all of this stuff though. But I had to be careful because some of these were booby-trapped and would explode when I opened the chest. I wasn't even able to get all of the loot because there was just so much of it I couldn't even hold it all. After literal hours of going through both floors of this labyrinth and looting it, yes, I got a little lost along the way, I finally found the jail of the Ministrum. I broke the gate and started shooting him with a bow, and before I knew it, he came up and broke the rest of the gate that was protecting me. I quickly got some shots on him with my sword, and before I knew it, he was dead. He dropped his battle axe, some stew, a Ministrum trophy, and there were 4 chests in the jail with some insane finds. I was most excited about the new armors and the steel leaves I got. I was so happy that I just killed the Ministrum, and I headed home super proud of myself. I spent some time crafting new armor and tools with all of the cool new materials I got. Something I found super interesting is how a lot of these custom armors are crafted with enchants already on them. The steel leaf armor is pretty powerful, so I grabbed some of those pieces. I didn't realize this in the moment, but the uncrafting table costs a lot of XP, and I used it a few times, wasting most of the XP I had gotten. I wanted to continue upgrading my gear, but needed XP to do so. And I don't have an XP farm, so I went out killing random mobs for a total of 11 days, just to get enough XP to enchant some stuff. This was a super long journey, as you can tell, and I was watching a movie while I did this and kinda lost track of time. But by the end of this, I had more than enough XP to make me some upgrades for my gear. When I headed home, I had so much food to put in my furnaces, and I did a ton of enchanting. I got my Ministrum axe to a sharpness 3, which I am really happy with. I'm ready to fight some more bosses. So I grabbed some blocks, arrows, and potions, and headed off on a journey to find the next boss I need to fight. I'm hoping to get even more custom armor pieces. After a little while, I found myself in a taiga biome. I was next to this giant chunk of ice and climbed on top of it just to start freezing to death. So I hopped down and continued traveling through this snowy biome. After a few minutes, I found these hilarious looking little Yeti guys. I was playing around with them when bam, a gigantic scary one spawned and he was not happy I was in his cave. I tried shooting him with my bow, but it wasn't doing any damage. So I knew I had to get up close. I went up to him and hit him with my axe, and he started shaking like crazy, throwing ice blocks at me. When he did this, I got some bow shots on him. I hit him with my axe again, and he picked me up in his jaws and flung me around. I was so scared here. Remember, this is hardcore Minecraft. I cannot die. I continued getting some bow shots on him, slowly ticking down his health. This fight was pretty long. I went up to him once more, hitting him with my axe, making him go crazy so I could get some bow shots on him, and soon after, he was defeated. I grabbed the XP and loot I got for killing him, and ran out of there as fast as possible. I had gotten some ice bombs and alpha Yeti fur. I'm pretty sure I can craft armor out of this. I was so excited and ran home where I crafted myself this insanely cool looking helmet. I mean, guys, look at this thing. I sadly didn't have enough fur for a full set of armor, and I really wanted one. So I went back out to find myself another Alpha Yeti boss. It took a day or two, but I did come across one. This battle was even easier because this time I knew what to do. I used the same tactics as before, and this boss was killed after just a few minutes. I had gotten myself 6 more pieces of Alpha Yeti fur. I crafted myself some boots, and was feeling pretty good after this. I had some seriously powerful armor now, and a great weapon. So I followed my map into this dense forest to find another boss. But when I got too close, I got a blindness effect, and the force field was back. It took me a bit, but I found my way out of the forest and made it back home. I guess I'll have to fight another boss before I can go into this forest. This mod consists of a lot of bosses, and I had been fighting them for a long time. I needed a break, so I decided to build Benji a house today. I grabbed a few materials and got to work on building him a miniature version of my house. When it was completed, I went out and got another chicken and transformed her into a lady penguin for Benji. Now he will have someone to keep him company. With this taken care of, I was off to fight the next boss. The next one on my list is the Hydra. Boy, I am not excited for this one. I headed to a fire swamp, ate some of this magical stew I got from the Minoshroom, and headed into battle. This was one of the more difficult fights I had to deal with. This fight actually took an entire 2 days. It was probably because I was very cowardly with this fight. Basically, the Hydra was shooting fireballs at me that I had to deflect back to him, and whenever I could sneak in some bow shots, I did. This fight took a ridiculous amount of time, and I ate a few golden apples. But the feeling I got when the Hydra had been defeated was incredible. I didn't get anything too special from this fight except for the trophy. After fighting the Hydra, I found my way to a new dungeon. There is a boss somewhere around here that I need to fight, as well as a new material I want to get. I was very excited to get my hands on some armor shards. This Goblin Knight dungeon was massive, and I spent an unreasonable amount of time searching for the Night Phantom boss. But after days and days and days of searching, I actually gave up. I was really frustrated. I headed home with the loot I got from the dungeon and upgraded my axe to a knightly axe with sharpness 5 on it. This weapon is even better than my Minoshroom battle axe. After upgrading, I headed back to the dungeon to find the boss and kill him. I was set on finding him, and after I did, I killed him very, very easily. I got some pretty great loot and headed straight to the next boss, the Yurgast. I was really scared for this one as well, and just like the Night Phantom, it was hard to find a dark tower. But eventually I came across one, and I will say this, to get to the top of this tower took me so long. I couldn't figure out the puzzling blocks that led me to the top, but don't worry, after a while I made my way to the top of the tower to fight the Yurgast. This was another long battle, and it was sort of confusing, but I did figure it out. I got so many bow shots on this ghast, but let me just say, this thing had a lot of health. And the sounds this guy was making were not pleasant. After the Yurgast was defeated, I headed home with some new loot and 2 new boss trophies. I was reaching the end of the 100 days, and boy have I done a lot. When I got back to my base, I was very happy to be here, by the way. I repaired all of my armor, played around with some new items, and refilled on golden apples and cobblestone. It was time to head off to the final few bosses. The first one is the Ice Princess. She lives in this super cool palace, and I was very excited for this fight. I found her castle, headed inside, and fought through countless mobs to get to her. There were some of the best loot in the game in this tower. And climbing this thing was no easy feat, but I got to the boss room eventually. This fight was not easy though. She had ice blocks protecting her, and she was literally floating in air. I mean, come on, how was that fair? She was dealing a lot of damage to me. It was actually really hard to get hits on her, and as the fight was going on, ice blocks were melting from underneath me. If one of these blocks melts from underneath me, I will fall to my death. After several minutes of fighting her, the Snow Queen was defeated, and I moved on to the final boss. I was able to use my magic map to find this, and as I was approaching the castle, I saw this gigantic floating cloud. I was really confused and didn't know what this was. I hadn't read anything about this in the wiki. I I towered up to it and saw a gigantic version of myself. I was immensely confused, but started shooting at it and killed it. There were actually a few of me up here that I had to battle my way through, but when I killed the giants, I got their giant pickaxe and sword. I gotta say, this is hilarious. Without even noticing it, it had become day 100. Although I didn't make it to the final boss, I was so glad I tried out the Twilight Forest mod because this was a ton of fun. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.